Hey there everyone, I'm Jeff, this is Tabletop Toolbox, and this is episode number 17 of the Weekly Ratchet. And you know what? You can color me red, you can color me blue. It doesn't matter because it's my party, and I'll cry if I want to, here on the Weekly Ratchet. That's right. Hello, folks. Welcome back to the Weekly Ratchet. I hope you all had a fantastic week or weekend of playing games. Let me know how you're doing, how things are going. I always love hearing from the audience here on the channel. It's been an interesting weekend so far. So today is Memorial Day here in the United States. It's a celebration of, various memorials and such of folks who have lost their lives fighting in various conflict across the globe. So it's a day off here in the U.S. Today I've been actually doing a lot of filming work. I got to finish up the Wormwood a preview video out here on the channel. I know a few of you folks have already seen it. And in fact, I want to address a quick question that CR Poll posted on that video. He asked if that was a segment that I get paid for or if I just did it because I really like the game. And I didn't want to answer that question there. I don't want to get into that topic on those videos. But the quick answer is that no, I don't get paid for my preview videos, at least as of this time. My fee that I charge people is a finished copy of the game. I want to collect games. This is something that I really enjoy over here, and I want to just, continue to build that collection. The whole idea of really getting into content creation was that I just want to be able to get some games and not have to necessarily shell out all the money for them. Maybe someday the time will come that I am comfortable enough to actually charge a fee, and of course then contracts get involved and all that kind of stuff, and I just don't know that that's a level that I want to get to. We'll see. But I do feel like my reputation is starting to get out in front of me when I reach out to folks. Some of them either say, yeah, we know who you are, or, they'll check out my videos and go, oh yeah, we definitely want to work with you. And so that's been pretty fun. So anyways, I wanted to answer that question real quick. I don't know if I'm going to leave that comment up there, CR Poll. No offense if I take it down again. I just don't want that to be the topic of conversation on those videos, but we'll see. Anyways, I've also started officially filming for the Dice Tower Top 100. I got to 20 games in on Saturday. That was a unique experience, trying to cut down on my rambling a little bit. I actually have a brand new timer just down here off the bottom of the screen. You can't see it, of course, and it just kind of helps me stay a little focused, stay a little on point. I'm sure Katie and Greg of the Meeple Society will have something to say about that. I'll bet you they will. Anyways, let's go ahead and get to the show here. The good news is I have not been wasting too much time because I do not have any new games to talk about. Nothing new came in this week. I'm expecting a few little things next week, so we'll get to those then. For now, let's get to question of the week. Okay, after a few weeks of slightly heavier conversation, I decided to go with something a little lightweight for this week. And so I asked you, what was your favorite player color? And did you, have any concerns with folks who had favorite player colors? And I was glad to see that no one seems to have any issue with folks who have preferred player colors. And that was nice to see. So what I did was I kind of organized all the responses into various teams, just to have a little fun for this week. So here on Team Green, we have Canuck Chuck and Omar Hernandez. On Team Yellow, we had Carltoonist and Thomas Grieve, who said that the folks in his game group all have their preferences, which makes setup a lot easier. And I certainly agree with that. In fact, a lot of times I'll reach out to folks when I'm setting up for a big game, like, Voidfall or On Mars has been a big one, where I say, hey, what color do you want to play as? These are the ones that are left available. And then I'll get, those colors set up ahead of time so folks can get right in, sit down and start getting in the game. Makes good sense. On Team Black, we have Mark B from Australia because, as he said, basically, no one else wants it. I can understand that, although I will say that when I'm playing, maybe a more, I don't want to say a dark game, but maybe a little bit more of a conflict game, something a little bit more, maybe take thatty or a little more subterfuge to it. I'll typically try to go for the black pieces if they are out there. Then we have Team Flexible. We have Simulation Chris, who said red or white, but never blue, as his wife always takes it. And you know what, Chris? We would get along just great playing games anytime, but I don't think your wife could ever join us. Kay said black or yellow, but it honestly doesn't matter. And Matt Ball, who said blue or orange. because they're the colors of some silly sports team. I don't know, whatever. Then there was Wonderflonium, who said he likes to pick the unusual colors as they are the ones that, just sort of stand out a little differently for him. And that's why I like to play as silver when I play East India Company. It's the only game I've ever seen with a silver player color in it. And then lastly, I have team whatever is the easiest to see, and this included CR Pole, Rentless, and my wife, as these are folks who basically are looking for the player colors that stand out from all the rest, especially if you get into the topic of folks with color blindness issues, may not necessarily be completely colorblind, but maybe some colors don't show up to them as well as others. Then if you start getting oranges or yellows or oranges and reds, especially even some reds and greens can be hard for folks to see if they have certain types of color blindness. And I'll admit that I'm not an expert in this at all. I've done a number of color blindness checks, and I have excellent, perfect color clarity, which even surprised me, but I was certainly glad to know. Me personally, I am team blue. In fact, I've always wanted to do a kind of a joke out on one of the Facebook pages, like the Dice Tower page. I was going to show my collection of cars, my 73 Plymouth Barracuda, my 2020 Chevrolet Camaro, and my 2011 Yamaha Striker motorcycle with the tag, guess my favorite player color, because they're all blue. and I'm one of those who I try to be flexible about it. I usually, when I'm playing with folks, I'll say, hey, what colors do you want to play as? I like to play as blue, but I don't, it doesn't matter. And then some folks, well, go ahead and be blue, that's fine. Some folks will just snatch it up automatically. That's also fine. Although I will warn them, that's fine, you can be blue, but I will most likely move your pieces at some point. So just keep an eye on them. Anyways, you know what? That's it for this week. I thought I'd keep this one pretty short and sweet. Thanks, as always, for the responses. The question for next week, as I mentioned, this is Memorial Day here in the U.S. So in honor of that, what is your favorite conflict-driven game? And it doesn't necessarily have to be a war game. That's not what I'm leaning towards, because I don't really play any war games, so I wouldn't have anything to insert there myself. But just, a favorite conflict game, maybe a war game, even if it's, Sorry or something. That's totally fine. Just let me know what your favorite conflict-driven game is. And that's it for the question of the week. Okay, well, we are zooming through the Weekly Ratchet already this episode, and I kind of expected that was going to happen because this week was a lot more like what I thought last week was going to be, not getting a lot of games played. I mean, I got a couple things in for sure. Daniel and I did get to hang out this past week, but we did things a little differently. We met up at the Center of the Universe Brewing Pub I've mentioned before, and just played through a bunch of lighter games. The first one is Marvel Remix. Now, this builds on the Fantasy Realms game, also by WizKids, and that these are games where it's an interesting but yet a simple mechanism, right? You start off with a hand of cards. Right? I think you get 9 or 10 cards at the beginning of Fantasy Realms. I think it's 9 cards in this game, and you are then trying to build synergy between those cards. So you may have a card that says, well, this is worth 12 points by itself, but you get plus 3 points for every, weapon that you have, or every ally that you have. You may have a card that says, again, this is worth 20 points, but blank this card if a certain villain is present, or if any villain is present. Whatever. And so throughout it, you're trying to get cards and then shed cards until the ones that you have in your hand synergize the most with each other. And in this game, you actually have 2 different decks. You have basically a villain deck, a deck of just all Marvel villains, and then a deck of kind of everything else, all of your various Marvel heroes, pieces of equipment, the drop ships or the Iron Man armor, whatever. And you have to have at least one hero or an ally and at least one villain in your finished hand, or else you just automatically lose. I liked Fantasy Realms because Fantasy Realms did that same thing, but only with one deck. So you just had to build the best synergy between the cards. There's this one, and then there was Star Trek Missions that came out in between, and there may be more. I'm not sure. I think there is Hero Realms, but I want to say that's based on the Star Realms game, so it's a completely different game. So I don't know if there was just the 3, but anyway, Star Trek Missions did the same thing in that you had sort of all of your Star Trek stuff, and then you had a deck of mission cards. And so the mission cards may require, an officer, a scientist, 2 phasers, and a ship or something, and you had to have those cards in the rest of your hand in order to accomplish that mission and gain its points. In this one, it's a little bit more simplistic in that the villain may just say, blank this card if a certain hero is present or something. And I felt like it was a little less thematic than Star Trek Missions. It looked better than Star Trek Missions. Star Trek Missions had this really funky art direction. I think the cards are almost kind of like a chameleon effect, and they looked terrible. This game looks more simplistic, kind of more in that, superhero comic book type of atmosphere. But yeah, got to play this. The weird one with this one was that my starting hand already had a lot of synergy to it. There was only one card that just didn't really fit in at all, and so I shed that one as quickly as I could. Daniel then discarded a card that I was able to take. That's kind of what triggers the end game, is when you have 10 cards across the discard area, the game just ends. And so you're drawing from either deck, discarding to a common area. When you get 10 cards in there, the game is over. I picked up one card that he shed that worked a little better with what I had, and then did not accumulate anything else. There was no other cards that I came out that built off of anything that I already had, but what I already had really wasn't that strong. So he was moving cards around a lot more than I was, and ended up beating me by a good number of points. But it was fine. It's kind of the way this works. A little more luck, a little bit more random, but still a fun game. Marvel Remix. Then we jumped into Sky Team by Scorpion Mask. I mentioned getting this game just a week or so ago. And we played this on the easy mode, landing in Montreal, Canada, a very basic setup. And, I think with this one, you're not supposed to communicate when you play, which is probably the one thing about it that maybe I don't love, but I get it. I mean, it's a very simple game. You don't really need to talk all that much. And if you do, it almost just makes the game too easy. But because it was his first play, I've played this a couple times, I would kind of say things like, well, I'm going to put this 6 down, but I might really need a cup of coffee, kind of implying that I don't really have any other dice that are super useful, and I'm probably going to have to at least burn a die to make some coffee so I can change the value of another die. That's how that works. But we landed successfully, had a very good time with it, and I am definitely looking forward to checking out some of the other modules in this game. Glad I did pick this one up. Last we played Last Command. I've talked about this one a couple times here already on the channel. A 2-player ship battling, just fighting game, really, is all it is. I've really been enjoying this one, as I've already mentioned, but he had not gotten to see this one yet, and I know that he's not a big conflict player, and really I'm not, although I have been enjoying these games a lot more than I've expected. But I really wanted him to see how it played, especially with the whole 2 decks that you're building, and he was really impressed with that element, and especially the way that you kind of have to wipe either your systems or your crew when you then need to reshuffle your decks to draw from. Adds a really unique level of planning, of complexity, of tactical play. You've got to really decide, like, hey, right now I really like the crew that I have out here, so I don't want to wipe them, but maybe I don't have enough energy in the systems to play too many systems cards. So you really got to think about what you want to do before you start wiping displays and shuffling cards. But he was really impressed with this. He really seemed to enjoy it. I did win this one with a good bit of experience under my belt already. I had one just stellar turn, and I said, well, okay, I'm going to do 7 damage, and I'm going to do 6 more damage, and he goes, well, I'm out. And I was like, well, already? I wasn't done attacking you yet. but he had a really good time with it. He was quite pleased, and I have been enjoying that one. I'm going to hopefully be working on that video starting, actually, I'm hoping tomorrow, as I'm looking forward to getting that one put together. The last game I played just over the weekend was the Firefly 10th anniversary. I am not lugging that box here onto the table, but I played this with my wife. I've already mentioned this game a couple of times, but what was neat with this one was that we picked a different scenario. A lot of the scenarios that I have been playing since Katie and Greg of the Meeple Society introduced me to this one were based on money values. You win, or you trigger the end game when you've got $6,000 or $15,000 or whatever the number is. And at least in my experience, I felt like those games were a little too easy to solve because all I did was build a very minimalist crew. I went after legal jobs that were very, very easy, just pick up and deliver, and just racking up the money. It doesn't make it as much. It doesn't add as much value to build this big crew or add all this stuff to your ship because you're not really doing anything that requires it, and those are just more mouths to feed with every mission that you complete. We picked a scenario, though, that said you had to have the most solid contacts at the end of the game, and that is when you do missions for the various contacts, when you complete them, they become solid to you. They're now kind of like your buddies. You can tuck them underneath your player mat, and they give you some slightly additional actions or abilities you can take throughout the game. And you had to have more unique solid contacts at the end of the game than your opponent, and there was also a time limit in literally the number of missions you got done. We think we would tweak the number because we only got to do 3 missions per player, which made it really, really a quick game. And also, we finished 3 and 3. And I was like, well, if we had an odd number of tokens, then that would definitely create, an uneven number at the end, and someone would clearly be the winner. We tied, and the tiebreaker was the value of your crew. And I had built this huge crew. I had no money because I had been paying them. I'd been building up my ship, but it made the illegal missions from the more dangerous contacts a lot easier for me. My wife had a ton of money with a much more skeleton crew, but she did not get quite the diversity of the missions that I got. And because I had that tiebreaker lined up, I won the game. Anyways, been having a lot of fun with that one. And she really likes that one too, which is just amazing for being such a huge box. And, obviously a very strong IP-rich theme, but we have been enjoying the series. I think we got 4 episodes left to go. And, that's been that. Hey, that's the end of the Weekly Ratchet. This week, Wednesday, is my birthday. So I'm going to be taking a couple days off here, trying to get some other filming work done, also trying to get some additional games played, and hopefully having a fun, relaxing week. So keep an eye out for some other stuff, hopefully launching this week. I will chat with you folks soon. Have a good one. Cheers.